I am sitting in my living room right now, staring at the Bluetooth speaker on the shelf next to the television. My wife Meredith gave me that speaker for our third wedding anniversary. She said it would play love songs for us every evening, but that night it played something else entirely. It played the sound that shattered our 3-year marriage into pieces. I never imagined I would use her own gift to expose her deepest secret. Before I begin this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you believe in honesty and loyalty in relationships, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now let me take you back to the moment when a simple phone password request turned into the unraveling of a 3-year marriage. I met Meredith 5 years ago at an outdoor concert in Zilker Park right here in Austin. It was one of those perfect Texas evenings where the sun was setting and the music was flowing through the warm air. I was standing near the back of the crowd just enjoying the atmosphere when this woman bumped into me and spilled her entire beer all over my shirt. I turned around ready to be annoyed, but then I saw her face. She was laughing so hard with her hand covering her mouth, eyes sparkling with genuine amusement. Instead of getting mad, I found myself laughing too. She insisted on buying me a new drink to apologize, and we ended up talking for the rest of the concert. We missed most of the music because we could not stop talking to each other. That was Meredith. She had this magnetic energy that pulled people toward her. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends. She loved being the center of attention, loved telling stories, loved making people laugh. I was the complete opposite. I preferred quiet evenings at home, small gatherings with close friends, and working from my home office as a software engineer. But somehow we worked. At least that is what I believed for a long time. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. The wedding was small but beautiful, held at a vineyard outside Austin, with just our closest family and friends. After the honeymoon, we pooled our savings together and bought a modest house in the suburbs. It was not fancy, but it was ours. Every morning I would make coffee while Meredith got ready for her job at a marketing firm downtown. Every evening she would come home and tell me about her day while I cooked dinner. Life was simple and good. Then about 6 months ago, everything started to change. It began when Meredith's company hired a new head of marketing. His name was Derek, and he had transferred from their New York office. From the very first week, Meredith could not stop talking about him. At dinner, she would say things like, "Derek presented this amazing strategy today," or "Derek has such great ideas for the campaign." I did not think much of it at first. It seemed normal to be impressed by a talented new boss. But as the weeks went on, the way she talked about him shifted. It was no longer just professional admiration. It became personal. "Derek says the funniest things turned into 'Derek really understands me.'" She started quoting him like he was some kind of guru whose every word was worth remembering. I noticed that she began getting ready more carefully in the mornings. New outfits appeared in her closet. She joined a gym and started watching what she ate, which she had never cared about before. I told myself this was a good thing. My wife was motivated, growing in her career, taking care of herself. What kind of husband would complain about that? So I pushed away the small voice in my head that whispered something was wrong. But then the small things started piling up. Meredith began leaving for work earlier and coming home later. She always had a reason: a big project, a client dinner, a team meeting that ran long. Her phone, which she used to leave face up on the kitchen counter, was now always face down. When it buzzed with notifications, she would grab it quickly and angle the screen away from me. One evening I walked into the living room and found her laughing at her phone, her fingers flying across the screen as she typed. When I asked who she was texting, she barely looked up. "Just a coworker sending memes," she said. But the smile on her face was not the kind you give to a funny picture. It was something deeper, something more intimate. A few weeks later, I noticed she had changed her phone password. We had always known each other's passwords. It was never a big deal because neither of us had anything to hide. When I casually asked about it, she shrugged and said she just wanted something more secure. I did not push the issue. The moment that really shook me happened on a random Tuesday night. I was looking for my own phone and accidentally picked up hers from the coffee table to check the time. Before I could even glance at the screen, Meredith lunged across the couch and snatched it from my hand. Her reaction was so fast, so intense that we both froze for a second. "Sorry," she said, forcing a laugh. "I just have some work stuff on there. Confidential client information." I nodded and said nothing, but my heart was racing. That was not the reaction of someone protecting work files. That was the reaction of someone protecting a secret. Still, I did not want to be that husband. The jealous one who checks his wife's phone and follows her around. I trusted Meredith. I loved her. So I buried my suspicions and tried to focus on the good parts of our relationship. But the distance between us kept growing and I could not figure out how to close it. The company holiday party was in early December and Meredith invited me to join her. Part of me hoped that seeing her in her work environment would put my mind at ease. Maybe I would see that everything was normal, that Derek was just a boss, that I had been imagining problems where none existed. The party was held at a fancy hotel downtown. Meredith looked stunning in a dark green dress that I had never seen before. When we walked in, she immediately scanned the room and her eyes lit up when she spotted someone across the crowd. I followed her gaze and saw him. Derek. He was tall, with the kind of confident posture that comes from knowing everyone in the room is looking at you. His suit was perfectly tailored, his hair was perfectly styled, and his smile was perfectly charming. When we approached him, he shook my hand firmly and said all the right things about how much he had heard about me, and how lucky Meredith was to have such a supportive husband. But the whole time he was talking to me, his eyes kept drifting to her. Throughout the party, I watched them together. Meredith gravitated toward Derek like a planet orbiting a sun. She laughed at everything he said, touched his arm when making a point, leaned in close when he whispered something. I stood on the sidelines, nursing my drink, feeling like a stranger at my own wife's event. At one point, a woman named Patricia came up to me. She worked in the same department as Meredith. "They make a great team, do they not?" she said, gesturing toward Meredith and Derek. "Always together at the office. Late nights, early mornings. The project they are working on must be huge." She said it innocently, just making conversation. But her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I smiled and nodded, but inside something cracked. On the drive home, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind for months. "You and Derek seem close," I said, keeping my voice casual. Meredith's reaction was immediate. Her body tensed, her jaw tightened. "What is that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. I just noticed you two spent a lot of time together tonight." "He is my boss, Chet. Of course we talked." "Are you seriously jealous right now? That is ridiculous." I dropped the subject, but the defensiveness in her voice told me everything I needed to know. Something was wrong. I just did not have proof. The following week, Meredith announced she had to go on a business trip to Dallas. 3 days of meetings with a potential client. I asked who else was going, and she rattled off a few names from her team. It sounded legitimate. While she was gone, something felt different. She barely called, and when she did, the conversations were short and distracted. One night I called her at 10 o'clock. She did not answer. An hour later, she sent a voice message saying she had been in a meeting with the client and could not talk. But in the background of that message, I heard music. I heard laughter. I heard the sounds of a bar or a restaurant, not a conference room. When she came home from Dallas, she was carrying a new silk scarf. She said she bought it at a boutique there. But when I went to hang up her coat later, I found the receipt still in her pocket. The scarf had been gift-wrapped. I started losing sleep. Every night I would lie awake next to her, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the woman beside me was still the person I married. I needed someone to talk to, so I called my best friend Kevin. We had been close since college, and he was the only person I trusted with something like this. I told him everything. The way Meredith talked about Derek, the changed password, the business trip, the gift-wrapped scarf. Kevin listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Bro," he finally said, "trust your gut. Something is off here. But do not do anything crazy. You need proof before you make any accusations." He was right. I knew he was right. But getting proof felt impossible without becoming the very thing I did not want to be. Then came the Saturday night that changed everything. I was working in my home office when Meredith walked in. Her face was serious, her arms crossed over her chest. "Chet, I need your phone password. Right now." I looked up from my computer, confused. "What? Why, I saw you texting someone earlier. You were smiling at your phone." "Who was that?" "That was Kevin. We were talking about the basketball game tonight." She shook her head. "I do not believe you. If you have nothing to hide, just open it. Give me your password." The irony was not lost on me. For months I had been the one swallowing my suspicions, giving her the benefit of the doubt. And now she was accusing me of the very thing I feared she was doing. But I had nothing to hide. So I handed her my phone and told her the password. She spent the next 15 minutes going through everything. My text messages, my emails, my photo gallery, my social media apps. She even checked the recently deleted folder in my photos. She found nothing because there was nothing to find. When she finally put my phone down, I looked at her calmly. "Your turn," I said. "Can I see your phone?" The change in her expression was instant. The accusatory confidence disappeared, replaced by something that looked almost like panic. That is different, she said quickly. I have work stuff on my phone. Confidential information. I could get in trouble. I have work stuff too. Client code, project files. But I still let you look through everything. Chet, no. You are just going to have to trust me. I stared at her for a long moment. You just spent 15 minutes going through my phone because you did not trust me. And now you are telling me I need to trust you. Do you not see how unfair that is? Her face hardened. I am not doing this with you tonight. She turned and walked into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. I sat alone in the office, my mind racing. The double standard was so blatant, so obvious that I could not ignore it anymore. She had demanded complete transparency from me while refusing to offer any in return. That was not the behavior of an innocent person. That was the behavior of someone with something to hide. I did not sleep that night. Instead, I sat in the living room staring at the Bluetooth speaker on the shelf. And then I remembered something. That speaker was still connected to Meredith's phone. She had paired it months ago to play music during a dinner party, and she had never disconnected it. The speaker had a feature that let you access connected devices remotely, including apps like voice memos. I knew Meredith used that app constantly. She recorded notes for work reminders for herself, sometimes even personal thoughts, when she was processing something emotional. If there was any truth to my suspicions, it might be recorded on her phone. I wrestled with myself for hours. Was this crossing a line? Was I becoming the paranoid husband I never wanted to be? But then I thought about her going through my phone, demanding transparency she refused to give. I thought about the gift-wrapped scarf, the late-night calls she never answered, the way she looked at Derek. I needed to know the truth. Not to hurt her, but because I could not keep living in this fog of doubt. The next morning was Sunday. Meredith woke up and announced she was going to brunch with some friends. She took a shower while I sat in the living room waiting. When she came out of the bathroom, she left her phone on the coffee table while she went to the bedroom to get dressed. The screen was not locked because she had just been using it. My heart was pounding as I reached for the speaker remote. The connection was still active. I navigated to the voice memos app through the speaker interface and saw dozens of recordings. Many of them had titles that included the letter D and various dates. My hands were trembling as I pressed play on the first one. Meredith's voice filled the room. The recording was from 4 months ago. I think I am falling for him. I know it is wrong, but I cannot help it. Every time Derek looks at me, I feel like I am 22 again. I feel alive. I sat frozen, unable to move. The voice continued, but I could barely hear it over the roaring in my ears. I pressed play on the next recording. This one was from 3 months ago. Today in the conference room, Derek held my hand under the table during the meeting. No one saw. When I came home to Chet, I felt nothing. Just emptiness. The third recording was from 2 months ago, and it described the Dallas trip in detail that made me sick. They had stayed in the same hotel room. She described their time together in words that I will never repeat. The fourth recording was from 1 month ago. In it, Meredith compared me to Derek. She called me boring, unambitious, predictable. She said Derek made her feel things I never could. The fifth and final recording was the most recent from just 2 weeks ago. In it, Meredith and Derek discussed their plan. They were going to wait until after the holidays to avoid drama, and then she would file for divorce. They had it all figured out. I was still sitting there numb when I heard a gasp behind me. Meredith was standing in the doorway to the bedroom. Her hair was still wet from the shower, and water was dripping onto the floor. She was staring at the speaker, listening to her own voice, confessing everything. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The recording kept playing, filling the silence with her betrayal. Then she lunged for the speaker, trying to turn it off. But I had already heard enough. Meredith tried to explain. She tried to justify. She tried to blame me. If you had paid more attention to me, she said, her voice shaking. If you had been more exciting, more ambitious, I would not have needed to look elsewhere. I listened to her excuses without saying a word. When she finally stopped talking, I looked at her calmly. I gave you everything I had, I said. I worked hard to build a life with you. I trusted you completely. And while I was doing that, you were sneaking around behind my back, lying to my face and planning to leave me. She started crying, begging for another chance. I made a mistake. It did not mean anything. We can work through this. This morning I said you were about to go to brunch, come home, and pretend everything was fine. You were going to keep lying to me until you were ready to leave. Is that not right? She did not answer. She did not have to. Last night you demanded to see my phone because you did not trust me. You went through every message, every photo, every email. And the whole time you were the one cheating. You were the one with secrets. You wanted to control me so you could feel safe continuing your affair. Meredith had no response. The tears kept falling, but I felt nothing. "I want a divorce," I said, "and I want you to move out." The weeks that followed were painful but necessary. I contacted a lawyer the same day. Fortunately, we did not have children, which made the process simpler. The house had been purchased with both of our savings, so we agreed to sell it and split the proceeds. Meredith initially tried to fight for more, but my lawyer reminded her that I had evidence of her infidelity. The voice recordings made her position very weak. Her parents found out what happened. Her mother called me one evening crying and apologizing for her daughter's behavior. I told her it was not her fault. As for Derek, the company launched an internal investigation once rumors started spreading about his relationship with a subordinate. He resigned before they could fire him and moved back to New York. Meredith tried to follow him, but apparently he was not interested in a real relationship. He had gotten what he wanted. The first few months after the divorce were the hardest. I sold the house and moved into a small apartment closer to downtown. At night, I would lie awake, wondering what I had done wrong, replaying every moment of our marriage, searching for the point where everything went off track. But slowly, with time and the support of friends like Kevin, I started to heal. I reconnected with hobbies I had abandoned during my marriage. I started hiking on weekends, exploring trails around Austin that I had always wanted to see. I threw myself into my work and earned a promotion that I had been too distracted to pursue before. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I woke up one morning and realized that the weight on my chest was gone. For the first time in over a year, I felt free. Looking back, I learned something important from this experience. When Meredith demanded to see my phone that night, it was not because she genuinely suspected me of cheating. It was projection. She was guilty, so she assumed I must be guilty too. People who are hiding something often become suspicious of everyone around them because they cannot imagine that others might actually be honest. I also learned that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than living in doubt. If I had never discovered those recordings, I might have spent years in a marriage built on lies, always feeling like something was wrong but never knowing what. Now, I know that I deserve someone who chooses me every single day. Someone who does not have to hide their phone or make excuses for their late nights. Someone who trusts me because they are worthy of trust themselves. I do not know what the future holds. Maybe I will find that person, maybe I will not. But I do know this: I would rather be alone and at peace than together and constantly wondering. Trust is not about having nothing to hide. It is about choosing each other openly and honestly every single day. And if someone demands that you prove your loyalty while hiding their own betrayal, you already have your answer. So if you are watching this and something feels off in your relationship, trust your instincts. Do not ignore the signs. You deserve the truth even when it hurts, because on the other side of that pain is freedom. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever caught someone in a lie because they accused you first? Have you experienced that kind of betrayal from someone you trusted completely? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like to help others find it. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss more stories like this. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video with them. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I wish you honesty in your relationships, peace in your heart, and the courage to always choose yourself when others will not. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.